Soft Hackle Brim Bug is just a fantastic subsurface panfish fly. It's essentially a woolly bugger, except the tail's made with Grizzly Marabou, and in this version, the hackle is palmered with a soft hen hackle. The softer fibers just cause this fly to come to life under the surface. Plus, the version that I am doing goes about creating the body of the fly just a little bit different, something you don't see. You can tie these up in many different colors: olive, brown, black. All are great colors. Even an orange is a great color. You can either add some weight to these or just fish them with no weight at all. It's a very simple pattern to tie. As I mentioned, it's very similar to a woolly bugger. In no time at all, you can have a box full of these in different colors, different sizes, and different weights, and you will have plenty of flies to have all kinds of fun out on your local ponds, out on your favorite ponds, or out on your favorite stream, catching all the panfish that you want. The Soft Hackle Brim Bug. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll start our Soft Hackle Brim Bug by placing our hook in the vise. For this fly, I'm using a Mustad 9672 number 10. You can use a 9671 if you want a shorter shank, or you could go with, say, a 3906B in a size 8, which would be about the same size as this hook, but a little bit thicker shank, add a little bit more weight to it. After placing the hook in the vise, I'm going to go ahead and debarb the hook. For thread for this fly, I'm using a UNI-Thread 8.0 in an olive color. I'll attach that thread right behind the eye of the hook and just run the thread down the shank of the hook. I don't have to have nice touching turns on this. It's all going to be covered up. You just want to go ahead and get all the way down to the end of the shank where we'll tie in our tail. The tail of this fly is made by using a Grizzly Marabou in an olive color. Grizzly Marabou is essentially kind of like a little chickaboo feather. It's a small marabou feather that has the alternating light and dark bands on it. But it's a nice, fluffy feather, great for the tail here. We're actually going to use 2 feathers to make up the tail of our Soft Hackle Brim Bug. You want to select 2 feathers that are fairly round and fairly full. Just match those up. I don't concern myself whether there's a dull side or a shiny side matched to one or the other. Just match those up and then clump those together and measure a tail that's going to be about a shank length long. And then you'll tie that in at the end of the shank where your thread's hanging. You can wrap some of that feather down along the shank if you want it to bulk up the body a little bit. I'm just going to trim away the excess. I'll bind down those feathers all the way down to the end of the shank. Make certain that they are nice and secure along the hook shank. Hackle on this, I'm using a whiting Rooster Soft Hackle Grizzly dyed olive. It's a really, really nice soft feather. You have to pick one out that is going to have the longest barbs that are going to be maybe about 1.5 to at the most 2 times the gap of the hook. You're going to peel away the fluffy parts of the feather so that you have a bare stem to work with. If you don't have a soft hackle like this, a Grizzly Schlappen feather would work. What you want to look for is you want to have the longest barbs, which are going to end up by the eye of the hook, to be only about 1.5 times the gap of the hook. You need a feather that's long enough to get anywhere from 5 to 6, maybe 7 wraps along the hook shank. Just depends on how full you want the resulting hackles around the body to be. We're going to stroke the fibers away from the tip, and we're going to tie that feather in by the tip with all of it hanging off the back with the tail. Or this will free up the hook shank for us to make the body. Again, don't worry about this being perfectly nice and neat and level and everything, because this is going to get all covered up. And also, the buggier, the messier this fly is, the better it seems to fish. Now, you could use a chenille or even some other type of dubbing for the body on this if that's what you prefer. But one of the things that I like to do is a technique you don't see too often. The fluffy fibers that we tore off of the tail hackles, the Grizzly Marabou, as well as some of the fluff from the Soft Hackle, you can combine that and actually use that as a dubbing. You can twist it on the thread and wrap it on as a body, and it's used as a dubbing. You don't see this technique used too often. Most often, these pieces that you peel off of the feather, you just throw away. But if you would like to, this is a great little fly to do this with, just to take those scraps. You can even take some of the trimmed pieces and peel off the real soft barbs, and you can even add in a little sparkle with it, or you could add in some other material if you want to. Just mix that together like a dubbing. Either way, take a little wad of that material and hold it in your hand, and then whichever hand you prefer, you're going to twist that onto the thread just like a regular dubbing loop. You want to make about a 3-inch dubbing loop. You can taper the body if you want to on this fly, or you can keep it level. It's up to you. As you can see, the resulting body is fairly thick. You can make it almost as thick as you need it to be. But as you can see, the body is very buggy. It has that same mottled color as the tail and as the hackle that we're going to palmer on there. I just find that it's an interesting technique. Again, you don't see it all that often, and it is something that you can do with some materials that normally you would just throw away. Just take your time with it. If you have to wrap it on and off again a couple of times to get the right bulk or the right taper, the right body that you're looking for, just take your time. Once you have the body done, attach your hackle pliers to that soft hackle and just start palmering it around. Again, this should look really familiar because it's very much like a woolly bugger. When I start to wrap the hackle, I will stroke those fibers back a little bit, but after that, I generally don't have to. As you can see, it'll kind of flatten out against the body, but as those hackle fibers get wedged down into that dubbing material, they will just stick right out 90 degrees. When you get up to the eye of the hook, sweep those fibers back. Put in a few wraps to secure the stem. I'll fold the stem back and then sweep everything back and make the head of the fly. With the head of the fly made, we can put in a 7 or 8 turn whip finish. And cut away the thread. The soft hackle stem can simply be pulled forward and broken off right at the thread wraps. Apply some head cement all around the thread wraps. It will soak down into those thread wraps and secure it. And the Soft Hackle Brim Bug is done. As I mentioned a couple of times, it's basically a woolly bugger, a little bit different material that goes into it. And the body technique, how that is dubbed on there, again, is something you don't see all that often, but I have seen it on a number of patterns and a number of different tires who use that otherwise wasted material. Experiment a little bit. You can put a little flash in the tail, maybe some in the body, different things. You could add some weight along the shank if you need to get it down a little bit more. You could even put a bead or a cone on the front of this, add a little bit more glint, make it a little bit more attractive, make it sink a little bit more. Have fun with it. It's a basic, simple fly that is very, very effective for panfish. That's the Soft Hackle Brim Bug. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and not only learned a new pattern, but maybe learned some new techniques and a few new skills. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button below. You can support Dressed Irons by hitting the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos are published. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.